There's a version of you that almost disappeared without anyone noticing, not physically, but internally. A version of you that got tired of carrying hope through seasons that gave you no reason to keep holding it. And maybe that's what hurt the most. Not the struggle itself, but how long it lasted because you kept telling yourself, maybe next month things will shift. Maybe this is finally the week my life changes. Maybe this is the conversation, the opportunity, the breakthrough I've been waiting for. And then nothing happened. Again, and again, and again. Until eventually, you stopped speaking your dreams out loud because it became painful hearing your own hope echo back at you unanswered. You learned how to act okay. You learned how to laugh in conversations while carrying exhaustion nobody could see. You learned how to encourage other people while secretly wondering why your own life felt emotionally stuck. And there were moments, real moments, where you questioned everything, your purpose, your direction, your value. You wondered if you had wasted years believing in something that was never actually going to happen. But even after all that, you never completely let go. That matters more than you realize. Because people can fake motivation, they can fake confidence, they can fake positivity, but they cannot fake endurance. And the fact that some part of you kept going, even after repeated disappointment, says something powerful about your future. Because what belongs to you leaves clues inside you. That's why the desire never fully disappeared. Even when you tried to convince yourself to become realistic. Even when you told yourself to stop caring so much. Even when you almost settled for a smaller life just to escape the frustration of waiting. Something deeper kept pulling you forward. And no, that wasn't weakness. That was alignment. Because sometimes your soul recognizes where your life is supposed to go, long before your circumstances catch up to it. And this is where many people misunderstand their season. They think delay means denial. They think slow movement means failure. They think silence means abandonment. But some of the most important transformations happen in seasons where externally, nothing seems to be changing. Because the real work is happening internally, quietly. Your mindset was changing. Your emotional patterns were changing. Your standards were changing. Your relationship with yourself was changing. Even your pain was changing you. Especially your pain. Because the version of you that first asked for this life was not emotionally equipped to sustain it. You wanted success, but still depended on external validation. You wanted peace, but were still emotionally attached to chaos. You wanted abundance, but your nervous system was still trained for survival. So life slowed you down, not because you were being punished, because you were being rebuilt. And rebuilding seasons are uncomfortable because they often look unproductive from the outside. Nobody applauds you for healing privately. Nobody sees the discipline it takes to keep showing up when results are invisible. Nobody sees the internal battles you fight before sunrise, the conversations you have with yourself late at night, the effort it takes just to stay emotionally steady when life feels uncertain. But those invisible moments are changing you more than the visible victories ever could. That's why this current season feels different. You may not fully understand it yet, but something is shifting, not just around you, within you. There's a certain desperation leaving your spirit lately. Have you noticed that? Things that once triggered panic no longer control you the same way. People whose approval once felt necessary suddenly feel less important. You're beginning to protect your energy differently. You're beginning to value peace differently. And maybe for the first time in a long time, you're no longer trying to force your life into alignment. You're allowing alignment to happen naturally. That is growth. Real growth. Not becoming louder. Not becoming more impressive. Becoming more grounded. Because true transformation doesn't always feel dramatic. Sometimes it feels like emotional clarity. Sometimes it feels like finally getting tired of betraying yourself. Sometimes it feels like recognizing that you cannot enter your next chapter while carrying the emotional weight of your old one. And this is important. The final stage before change often feels confusing. That's why some of you have recently felt disconnected from certain environments, certain conversations, even certain versions of yourselves. You're not losing your identity. You're shedding outdated survival patterns. And yes, that process can feel deeply lonely, because when you begin changing internally, your outer life does not immediately catch up. Your mind starts seeing differently before your environment changes. Your standards rise before your reality reflects them. Your spirit begins craving peace while your surroundings still operate in chaos. and that creates tension, a strange emotional distance between who you used to be and who you are becoming. For a while, it feels like you no longer fully belong anywhere. Old conversations stop resonating. Old habits begin feeling heavy. Even certain friendships can start feeling emotionally misaligned. Not because anyone is bad, but because your energy is no longer rooted in the same place. And that can make you question yourself. You start wondering, why do I suddenly feel disconnected? Why does everything that once distracted me feel empty now? Why do I feel alone, even when surrounded by people? But what you're experiencing is not failure. It's transition. You are emotionally leaving one version of life before fully arriving at another. And that in-between space is uncomfortable because the human mind craves certainty. It wants clear answers, clear timelines, clear proof that growth is leading somewhere meaningful. But transformation rarely provides immediate reassurance. Sometimes growth feels like losing interest in things that once defined you. Sometimes healing feels like isolation before it feels like peace. Sometimes elevation first feels like grief, because you are mourning the identity you spent years surviving through. And that grief is real, because even unhealthy versions of ourselves can become familiar. Even painful environments can feel emotionally safe simply because they are known. So when life starts pulling you beyond old emotional patterns, part of you naturally resists it. Not because you want to stay stuck, but because the unknown can feel terrifying when you've spent years emotionally adapting to survival. That's why this season requires compassion toward yourself, not judgment. You are learning how to exist without constantly operating from fear. You are learning how to make decisions without desperation controlling them. You are learning how to trust yourself without needing endless reassurance from others. That is not a small transformation. That is identity level change. And identity level change takes time because your nervous system has to adjust to the life your soul has been asking for. A lot of people want abundance while still emotionally attached to scarcity. They want healthy love while still addicted to emotional inconsistency. They want peace while secretly feeling uncomfortable without chaos. You're beginning to notice those patterns now. You're becoming aware of what drains you, what weakens you, what disconnects you from yourself. Awareness changes everything, because once you truly see a pattern, you cannot unsee it. And that awareness is the beginning of freedom. That's why this current season is not empty, even if externally it feels slow. Internally, your entire relationship with yourself is evolving. You're learning how to sit with your emotions instead of escaping them. You're learning how to stop measuring your worth through productivity. You're learning that resting does not make you lazy. You're learning that saying no does not make you selfish. You're learning that protecting your peace is not weakness. These lessons matter, because what's coming next in your life requires emotional stability, not just ambition. And there's a huge difference between the two. Ambition can build things quickly, but emotional stability is what allows you to sustain them without self-destruction. That's why your waiting season taught you patience, not passive patience, intentional patience, the kind that keeps growing even when visible results are delayed, the kind that continues healing even when nobody notices, the kind that chooses discipline over emotional impulse. Your season trained you in emotional resilience, and honestly, most people never develop that. Most people collapse the moment life stops validating them. Most people abandon themselves the second things become uncertain. Most people run back to old habits because temporary comfort feels easier than transformation. But you stayed, even when it was hard, even when progress felt invisible, even when nobody understood the internal work you were doing. You stayed with yourself, and that matters more than you realize, because now, slowly, something is changing inside you. You're becoming less reactive, less desperate, less emotionally dependent on external outcomes. And that shift is powerful, because people who no longer operate from panic make different decisions. They choose healthier relationships. They stop forcing timelines. They stop settling out of loneliness. They stop chasing approval from emotionally unavailable people. And as your inner world changes, your outer life begins changing too. Not magically, naturally, because your standards evolve, your energy evolves, your choices evolve. You stop entertaining what once drained you. You stop shrinking yourself to fit environments that cannot support your growth. You stop confusing emotional intensity with genuine alignment. That's maturity. And if this message is finding you during this exact stage of life, Pause for a second and type this in the comments. I survived becoming someone new. Not because the journey was easy, but because you are finally realizing how much inner work it took to arrive here. Because becoming a new version of yourself is not glamorous. It's uncomfortable. It requires releasing identities you outgrew. It requires grieving timelines you imagined differently. It requires forgiving yourself for seasons where you were simply trying to survive emotionally. And there were moments during this process where you genuinely thought you were falling apart. But now you're beginning to realize something deeper. You were not falling apart. You were separating from patterns, beliefs, fears, and attachments that could not follow you into your next chapter. That's why your spirit has felt restless lately. Your soul knows movement is happening before your reality fully reflects it. And while nothing may seem fully complete yet, internally you can feel that your tolerance for misalignment is disappearing. You can't keep pretending anymore. You can't keep abandoning yourself for temporary comfort anymore. You can't keep living disconnected from your deeper truth anymore. That awareness is the beginning of your new life, because eventually healing reaches a point where your peace becomes more important than your old coping mechanisms. And once that happens, everything changes. Your relationships change. Your priorities change. Your conversations change. Your boundaries change. Even the way you carry yourself changes. People begin responding to you differently because you are no longer energetically introducing yourself to life from wounded survival mode. You're becoming emotionally available for stability. And stability attracts differently than desperation does. That's why opportunities will begin arriving with less force. The right people will feel calmer instead of confusing. The right environments will nourish you instead of exhausting you. Not because life suddenly became perfect, because you finally stopped negotiating with your own worth. And when you eventually look back at this chapter years from now, you may realize this was the season that changed everything. Not because it was easy, but because this was the season where you stopped betraying yourself just to feel temporarily accepted. This was the season where you learned how to stay loyal to your growth, even when the results were invisible. This was the season where you stopped asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and slowly began asking, "What is this teaching me about who I'm becoming?" That shift changes a person forever, because once you realize life is not only shaping your circumstances, but shaping your identity through those circumstances, you stop viewing every delay as punishment. You begin seeing preparation where you once only saw frustration. And eventually, all the inner work you've been doing begins showing up externally, in the way you speak, in the way you love, in the way you protect your peace, in the way you trust yourself, in the way you no longer panic when things take time. That calmness is earned. That wisdom is earned. That emotional depth was built through every silent season you survived. So, stop minimizing your progress just because it happened internally first. Internal transformation is still transformation. In fact, it's the kind that lasts. And maybe that's what this entire chapter was really trying to teach you. Your future was never only about achieving more. It was about becoming someone who no longer abandons themselves while trying to reach it.